Chapter 20. The woodsman was late. Leonie paced back and forth, her boots upsetting the frost, clinging to the dead grass. The tree line loomed less than 40 yards behind her, foreboding in the early morning darkness. Thick shadows danced beneath the boughs, and Leonie shivered whenever she looked in their direction. The sight of those dark tree limbs made the chainmail she wore feel like a childhood blanket. Her fingers drummed along the teardrop pommel of her sword, her gloved fingertips feeling out the dents and grooves in the metal. Once it had been inlaid with gold, but little remained now. "He will come, Your Highness," Tall said. The woman was like the trees, her only movement the gentle billowing of her cloak in the wind. "You know him so well already?" "I only mean we can trust Singer and Fjord, Your Highness." Leonie snorted. They had been standing here for a quarter of an hour already, Leonie and her complement of the king's spear. Well, all of them except Singer and Fjord, who had been assigned to ensure Oli's presence this morning. Tall stood closest to Leonie, but behind her stood two others, each cloaked and wraith-like, bows already in hand. Victor was a skinny older man, the gray hairs along his arms visible whenever he drew back his bow. Colin was his opposite, young and thick in his arms and chest. Leonie kept her eyes on the way they had come, following the winding road back toward Watchful. From here, she could see the captain's handiwork, skeleton-like barriers up the main throughway, smaller barricades along the town's perimeter. At this distance, it looked ragged and disordered, but from up close, it had looked worse. Leonie had done all she could to keep her expression blank as she had marched past walls made of old kegs, tables, broom handles, and a few tankards thrown on up for good measure. "They are dead men," Leonie muttered. "Milady?" Leonie did not reply, but looked beyond the town to the rolling hills to the west. Hidden in one of those valleys, between those hilltops, was a small army that would crash through the captain's defenses like a child wading through a sandcastle. It would be quick and one-sided. "I should have sent them away." Leonie sniffed, the cold making her nose run. Tall said nothing, but Leonie could hear the crunch of her boot as she stepped forward. "It should have been the first thing I did. Packed them all up and sent them north, towards Sheraton." And still, Tall said nothing. "Instead, they will fight and die on that hill of theirs, cursing my name in all likelihood. I brought this down on them." "We will not fail, Your Highness." Leonie turned. Tall's face was all shadow above her nose. She almost commanded the woman to remove the hood so she could see those eyes, see if she meant what she had said. Was there the same certainty in her gaze as in her tone? But Leonie did not really want to know. She liked the words and the sliver of reassurance they gave, and she dared not ruin it. Perhaps, though, though I doubt it will matter if we do not leave soon. Tall smiled faintly, her lips only just visible in the starlight. She raised a gloved hand and pointed. 3 cloaked figures came at a jog, each of them looking the part of the king's spear. Leonie recognized Fjord's wide shoulders, Singer's red hair, lightly bobbing as she went, which meant that between them, his shoulders hunched and tense, stalked Oli Ricker. "You're late," she snapped as they neared. Singer and Fjord apologized, bowing and gushing out apologies like vomit. Oli spit to one side. "You said the courtyard." Leonie narrowed her eyes. "I said an hour before dawn. In the courtyard. I ain't deaf. We were in the courtyard. That captain of yours had to set us straight." "I said no such thing." Leonie stepped forward, fingers pointed toward Oli's nose. "And you shall remember who you are speaking with." Oli raised an eyebrow. Whatever. Doesn't matter now, eh? We best get going. He marched toward the wood's edge, rolling his shoulders and looking around at the rangers gathered. Keep up, Ollie said, and then he jogged into the wood. In her youth, Leonie had often vacationed to a mountain-fed lake to the west of the capital. The surface was always like calm glass, still and unmoving from a distance, but whenever she would dive first into the water, freshly melted snow from the mountain, the chill of it would rip the air from her lungs and bring back stark memories of winter. The wood was the same, calm and eerie on the outside, but once Leonie stepped onto the soft soil beneath the trees, the world around her erupted in noise and color. Bird songs were the loudest of the cacophony, sweet and high. They sang their morning songs on every branch in the canopy above. Though she had not seen or heard them moments before, now black jays and swine tips swooped so low she could have reached her palm up and caught one mid-flight. Dragonflies and mosquitoes buzzed, the former chasing the latter as fat web-footed squirrels looked on from where they clung to the sides of tree trunks. The bittersweet scent of jasmine hung in the air around Leonie, and it brought back to her memories of being at her childhood window in her bedroom. The memory came on so vividly she could almost see out across the rooftops of Turris Regis, the sunlight blazing off the golden domes of the Order's sanctuaries. Her rangers shifted around her, dropping their hoods, twisting left and right, caught up in the same violent rapture. It was wrong, the way that the world came to life simply by stepping beneath the boughs of the trees, as if an invisible threshold separated this place from the rest of the world. Sights, sounds, and smells burst into existence with nothing more than a step. The wrongness of it gave it beauty. The strangeness made it breathtaking. Leonie was swimming through the currents of magic and mystery, her body and mind spinning about to consume it all. She inhaled, wanting to suck in this moment, committing everything she could see to memory. She would paint it later. She would bring the birds alive by blurring their wings, layer the trees with grays and browns, and have the white jasmine flowers contrasting the orange and reds of the leaves on the ground. Ollie would be centered in the frame, the anchor of the moment. Hate him or not, Leonie could not help but watch the way he stepped carefully ahead, bow in hand and shoulders hunched forward. He appeared both tense and at ease all at the same time. A warrior in battle stance, a journeyman exploring familiar and dangerous ground. Ollie turned his head, his eyes meeting hers. His brow furrowed. He was too serious to be in a place so rich with beauty and wonder. Should he not be happy and joyful even? Even for a man who daily descended into such paradise. Music ran beneath the soil, something so royal and divine. Leonie knew she alone could hear it and understand it. It begged her deeper, urged her onward. She would find what she sought in this forest. This place wanted her here. It needed her to go on eastward. Ollie tilted his head and called, loud and clear, "Palmadits." And then the vibrant colors fled, faded to dull browns and oranges. The jasmine seemed like an odor, and Leonie's skin crawled as she took in the beasts around her anew. The squirrel looked famished, his hungry eyes lingering on her. The birds swooped too low, and Leonie ducked as she stumbled forward. Whatever music Leonie had been hearing fled, and the notes shattered into silence. And Ollie, he was far ahead, much further than she had thought. He cupped one hand near his mouth and called, "I told you to keep up." Blood warmed Leonie's cheeks. "Keep going," she said, as much to herself as to the rangers around her, who all shook their heads and blinked as if emerging from some group coma. No, that wasn't right. Tall alone had stayed clear-eyed, her hand on Leonie's elbow, concern etched into the lines of her forehead. "Milady." Leonie shook her head and brushed her away. What had the woodsman said? Palmadits? Was that magic? "Your Highness, are you all right? I was calling you, but I could not hear you." That was a frightening, teeth-grinding thought. It is this place, Leone said. It is enchanted. Victor grunted. Well, I wouldn't mind turning back already. The woodsman, for that was what Leone had decided to call him, never slowed. His long strides moved him through the forest as if he both feared it and owned it all at once. Each step declared him confident and bold, and yet always he cast furtive glances over his shoulder. What was that? Leone hissed when she had caught up to him, reaching forward and yanking Ollie around. What happened to us? The wood's a dangerous place. Figured you knew it. You seemed smart and all. He moved to step away, but she grabbed his shoulder again. What happened to us? Or what would have happened? You'd have died. Now, come on. We keep moving. It's the first rule of the wood. Leone nearly screamed as she marched after him, hand flexing around the handle of her sword. You never mentioned any rules. You didn't ask, Ollie said, picking up his pace. Fjord stepped closer to Leone, lowering his voice. Your Highness, I can restrain him if you would. No, Leone waved her hand as if swatting away something from her face. I have questions, woodsman. Ollie didn't even turn, just shook his head. We never stop moving. Want to talk? Fine. Do it while we walk. Leone picked up her pace. Is there anything else we should know? Or will you tell us after this place has already sent us to our grave? There ain't many rules, but you best learn the ones there are, and the first one is the most important. You keep moving. And the second? Leone asked, grinding the words out as she stepped over a tree root, or almost stepped over a tree root. The toe of her boot caught on the root's edge, sending Leone stumbling forward, her body landing into a pile of leaves and loose soil. Watch your step, Ollie said, turning with a frown. That's the second. Now come on, best get going, up and quick. She would kill him. She was sure of it now. She might have pondered mercy for the infractions so far, perhaps only a beating, and then she would let him keep the Newman for his efforts. Now, when this was said and done, she would erect gallows and string him up. She sat on the ground still, Singer and Tall standing nearby her, trying to find a way of offering to help her up, while pretending not to see her in this pathetic state. Oi, Ollie called again, from further away. Up! How dare he command her? Heat rushed through her cheeks and ears, her vision blurred. How dare he think that he, of all the people in Trevelar, could speak to her in such a way? She balled her fists, her jaw hurting now from grinding her teeth. Get up, Ollie called, voice angry. He walked back towards her, his lips set and eyes narrow. Leone twisted about on the ground. How dare you speak to me this way? I am the princess of this kingdom, and... Ollie moved too fast to follow, and Leone saw only still images, him raising his bow, the jerking of his arms, and then she heard, rather than saw, the hissing of an arrow. Her mind reeled around one thought. He is going to kill me. It made both no sense and yet all the sense in the world. Get her out here into the wood, where no one but her small guard defended her, and then... Leone's eyes involuntarily snapped toward the arrow as it slammed into the ground beside her. He had missed. Leone breathed out a sigh of relief in one breath and then a command with her second. Seize him. Victor moved first, unsheathing his blade and stepping forward, but Tall raised a hand, calling out, Wait! Victor faltered, sword still held in Ollie's direction, even as he turned to Tall, following her as she reached down and grabbed the shaft of the arrow. Your Highness, look. Tall raised it up for Leone to see. Skewered to the arrowhead, like a fish on a line, was a monstrous snake, its tail still jerking around in awkward, unnatural spasms. The size of it stunned Leone, its body thicker than her fist, and the top so heavy it bent the long arrow shaft as Tall held it aloft. Its scales blended in with the leaves on the ground impossibly well. The back end of the creature, which still shifted on the ground, appeared to change, its coloring shifting so it always matched the ground beneath it. If it had been a painting, there would have been no difference in the brushstrokes between the snake and the leaf-laden forest floor. Magic. Oi! Ollie marched towards them, shoving Victor's sword away with his bow. He held up one finger and said, First rule, keep moving. The wood don't care that you're a princess. Ollie snatched the arrow from Tall's hand, ripping it free of the snake's head and readying it on his bow once more. Blood dripped from the tip, landing on Leone's boot and leaving a red streak. Oli turned and marched away, past Tall, Singer, Fjord, Colin, and Victor, who still held his blade awkwardly at his side. Leonie stood then, hands brushing away leaves and dirt feverishly, in case more deadly creatures lingered within them. If snakes of this place could disappear into the ground, what about the spiders? Wild monkeys. Would a leopard or cougar appear from thin air and rip them limb from limb? Fjord coughed, his breath misting. "I bloody hate this place," he said, removing an arrow from his own quiver and knocking it on the bowstring. "A wonderful little hellhole we found," Singer muttered, knocking her own arrow. Leonie stomped after the woodsman, the rangers falling in around her, and the dying snake writhing behind.